Hi, my name is Johnny Pollock and I'm the pastor of Calvary Church Loughrea. And over the last number of weeks, we've been going through the Word One-to-One series, a Bible study in the Gospel of John. Now, for some of us who have never read the Bible before, this has been an incredible journey as we've went through verse by verse to see what the Bible has to say to us, what the words and the works of Jesus are, what this shows us about who he is, and indeed ultimately why this matters to us. I have the little copyright information about the video in this series, the Word One-to-One, that you can get the resources at the link that I put below, or indeed go on to the publisher 10ofthose.com, who have some other great information and resources for us that you can purchase in your own time and for your own growth. Now, today we are going to be looking in a very short bit of John 13, verses 31 to 35, to talk about true glory. These 5 verses actually show us what it looks like to live as people who trust in the death of Jesus, because we're walking towards the cross and Jesus is about to teach them what his death means and what this ultimately means for those who seek to follow after him. Verse 31 and 32, we enter back into the story as Judas has left the disciples. It says, when he was gone, Jesus said, now the Son of Man is glorified and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. Judas is gone. He has left the final meal with Jesus in order to betray him. And Jesus says the Son of Man is glorified. But what does he mean by this and why does he say it? Well, as we've seen from chapter 2, Jesus' hour that he referred to then has come and he is about to go to the cross and die for our sin. And what have we learned will happen at the cross? Well, Verse 31 tells us that at the cross, both the Son and the Father will be glorified. Now, this is a remarkable claim because God's glory is to be revealed even as Jesus is nailed to the cross in apparent defeat. This glory fits exactly with what the prophet Daniel prophesied hundreds of years before in Daniel 7 and 14. That he was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. This is what's going to happen as Jesus dies on the cross. Jesus talks about how the cross will lead to glory in the next slide. I want to break this down because it's kind of like a sandwich. Now, the Son of Man is glorified and God is glorified in him. And if God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself. So, as I said, this is what Jesus is explaining here. Because at once, the timing at once, refers to the event of Jesus' death, which is about to happen. And there's unity here because both the Son of Man and God are working together for the same purpose. And the Son of Man, therefore, is going to be glorified. There's absolute unity in between them, and they are as one. And the purpose, the timing, the unity, and the purpose, is that God is glorified in him. Now, this is important to think about, because how can it possibly be that Jesus' humble, shameful, weak, and apparently tragic death on the cross could be the moment of God's glory? Surely there should be something more profound and wonderful and beautiful in this than Jesus hanging on a cross in shame. But at the cross, we see the selfless sacrifice of Jesus carrying God's anger at our sin. We see the deep love of God giving his only Son that we might not perish. We see the right justice of God, insisting that sin must be punished. We see the perfect obedience of Jesus, willingly submitting himself for God's glory. We see the faithfulness of God to his people and to his promises that he would save them, and the loving faithfulness, just, selfless, obedient, pure, strong kindness of God. You see, God is glorified in the cross because it's his purpose to bring about salvation for his people as he has promised, in grace and mercy because of his love. So God is glorified in the cross. But in the remaining 3 verses in this section, we'll see Jesus saying, my children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give to you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. So Jesus reminds his disciples here that he is going to his Father. Well, and ultimately they're going to be unable to follow him. How are they going to live once he is gone then? Well, the verse in verse 34 is just like the command given in the Old Testament book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 18. Love your neighbour as yourself. And Jesus says this is a new command. And what he means by this is that he has added something to it. And what he has added is, he said, as I have loved you, then you love one another. How has Jesus loved us? Well, ultimately by giving his life for us at the cross. So as Christians love one another, what will happen? Well, the world should be able to look on and see the love of Jesus in action in our lives. And all of these verses, 34 and 35, relate to verses 31 and 32. That God is glorified through the sacrificial love of Jesus dying on the cross. And our love for one another makes this known to the world to show how God loves us. Now, in our little recap slide, once Jesus has gone to his Father, where will people then see the glory of God? The cross is finished once and for all. So his love is only seen then in Christians, loving one another selflessly, just like Jesus did on the cross. And maybe you're asking, well, how has God loved me? Well, by dying on the cross for me. When did Jesus love me? Well, long ago, long before we even began to think of him. Who took the initiative and made the first move? Well, Jesus did. And what had I done to myself to make myself lovable? The answer is nothing. So then, Jesus' love for us on the cross is the engine that makes our love for each other possible. The more I trust in his love for me, the more I will be able to love others. So how does this differ from the advice below that might be given by someone like in a marriage counsellor? They might say, look back to once you one had. Rekindle the good, spend time together, look within yourself, look for the good and loving within the other person. And in contrast, this is not what Jesus said. He doesn't tell us to look within ourselves. He says to look at him. And it's actually looking at Jesus that transforms our lives and allows us to live self-sacrificially for one another. As we summarize here, we've seen that because Jesus has loved us, we are then to love others. And he enables us to love others even when it costs us to do it. And the verses here, you can pause and take time to go through. These are short, but they're wonderfully profound for us to understand the love of God and how this should impact us and help us to understand his grace at work. That while we were short, while we were outside of his kingdom, while we were sinful and rebellious, that he laid down his life for us. And that now, by understanding that, we can truly love and serve others with that same love. This command that Jesus gives is controversial. In a strange way, it may not seem it, but next time we're going to see how this new commandment raises questions and how Jesus seeks to answer them. And so we've come to the end of our video this time, but next time we're going to be looking and continuing in our study in the Gospel of John. If you do have any questions, please do get in touch. We would love to hear from you, not only how you're getting on, but where you're coming from and what you're learning about this wonderful series through the Gospel of John. So until then, may God bless you, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.